Next session will be done by Abhishek from NumberEight. It's going to talk about the crossroads between edge computing, privacy, and ad monetization.
How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Not too bad at all.
All right, awesome. Are you ready to kick off?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely, yeah.
Right, I'll make myself disappear and the floor is yours.
All right, cheers. Okay, so let's kick things off with the pop quiz today. You'll have 30 seconds to answer this question. There'll be a small gift at the, for the first person who gives the right answer at the end of the talk. So yeah, let's kick that off. Cool. All right. I actually had to look that answer up when I first came up with the question. I was like, oh, wow, it was quite interesting. Cool. All right. Hi, everyone. My name is Abhi, co-founder and CEO of NumberEight. Today, we're going to be talking about the crossroads of privacy, ad monetization, edge computing. Pretty heavy topics. These are three pillars for the talk today, and each one has an impact on the other. We'll be starting off with privacy. So it's very topical and it's very current. In fact, I would even go as far as saying we're in the age of privacy right now. Ever since the Cambridge Analytica leak came public, it triggered a domino effect of regulatory and industry-wide changes. And most importantly, consumer sentiment has changed completely on how our data is handled, on all the services that we use, the games that we play, the apps that we use, so GDPR, for example, came into effect in May of 2018. You see platforms now taking a stance. And amongst the investor community, you see privacy tech is an actual terminology right now. So for any business to discount the importance of privacy for their brand, as well as from a commercial point of view, that's a big risk. And we think this is just the beginning. And, more relevant for this audience, for any listeners out there today, would be Apple's announcement for IDFAs, wherein they announced that for any apps that use ad monetization, they'll be required to ask users for a pop-up that says, hey, we'd like to use your IDs. I'd like to show everyone what that actually reads like. So for example, this is an app and the pop-up would be your game, example, would like permission to track you across apps and websites owned by other companies. Your data will be used to deliver personalized ads to you. Do you allow tracking or ask the app not to track? Now, as a consumer, this is what's, we're seeing a lot of numbers being thrown around over here, 15 to 25% of people are going to say allow tracking, but a large majority of people are going to say, it's estimated to be about 75 to 85% will say, no, not for me, because the value exchange is not clear enough. And this has a significant implication on ad monetization as we think of it today. What's interesting, see if you see a timeline where LAT or limited ad tracking traffic going forwards to the years, what's worrying from an ad monetization point of view, if you are a game publisher, is this is not going to happen over a long period of time. The decay will be sharp. In fact, as soon as, as is the case with iOS adoption, the adoption is quite quick. So it'll be a sharp drop in terms of how much ID-based traffic you're going to see. So this will have a significant impact on publisher revenues from our point of view. So we've seen the privacy changes. Now let's talk about ad monetization. How does that actually impact how you as a game publisher are going to make money through ads? Let's understand how are IDs used today first. Well, IDs are used in a whole range of ways, to show you the relevant ads, for tracking and attribution, for retargeting users, to make sure you don't show the same ad multiple times the same user again, cross-device tracking, a whole range of tools become possible through this identifier. The challenge, though, is as soon as this identifier is taken away, the very fundamental of mobile advertising is shaken up. Now, the loss of ID essentially means what? You are no longer going to be able to address an audience. So there's going to be a loss in addressability. That's going to happen regardless. It will have a significant impact on all the areas of ad monetization that we looked at earlier, be it personalization, be it frequency capping, tracking, and attribution. Now, as soon as you lose addressability for your inventory, for your ads, the value of each impression drops. For each impression, it used to be $1 CPM, it's going to drop because you just don't have enough data for a buyer to convince a buyer to say, you know what, my impression is still valuable enough for you to buy. The most inevitable thing that's going to happen is you're going to have eCPMs dropping. Now, it's quite controversial because in a way that a lot of case studies have been discussed around where you'll see, that are focused on the advertiser side of things where, oh yeah, of course you have cheaper inventory that is less valuable, so you can buy more for less from an advertiser point of view. Makes sense. So you can keep hitting as an advertiser, you can keep hitting your performance goals in the short term to allow you to maintain your ROAS. But we believe that's a band-aid solution, and that completely ignores the part about publisher revenues. So let's not try and sugarcoat things. If you lose addressability for your inventory, it will reduce eCPMs. And this is something that's fundamental, and that's the core of the issue, as in the addressability part is missing. And that's where the industry can be in for a rude awakening if if steps aren't taken in the approach to actually solve that issue. So we just want to make that clear because we don't see that being discussed. Most of it is coming from the advertiser side. In fact, this is a study that we came across. The link is quoted about the bottom over here. We can expect to see a 40 to 50% drop in in-app revenues. And this study was done over 2 games where for rewarded video and interstitial ads. Now, the link is over there. If anyone is interested in the link, I can send you the link after, or just ask me and I can just shoot it off to you. So as a publisher, what can you do with this impending changes? There's a few things. You can invest in new innovative ad formats, such as in-play advertising, where it's in a brand safe environment, or you have audio ads. You can look at other revenue streams, such as subscription, in-app purchases. But at the fundamental piece of it, for any kind of ad monetization, it comes down to addressability. If that is not solved, you can have problems with ad monetization. And that's, a slight plug for NumberEight. That's kind of the area that we are experts in. And let's look at the current mitigation strategies that are being discussed. So first one being IDFA opt-in optimization. The pop-up that you saw, how can we optimize the user opt-in rate? How can we maximize it? Maybe we can have some kind of smoother onboarding, a pre-prompt of sorts. A lot of this is still dependent on the user saying yes or no. So it's really out of your control for quite a part of it. So we don't consider that as a viable mitigation strategy. The second one being discussed quite heavily is contextual targeting, which is great. Now, this word is quite misused, contextual targeting, and misused and overused, because what we've been hearing over and over again about contextual targeting, what it is, it refers to things that are raw device data signals, such as app category, game category, battery status, storage amount. Now, we've been doing on-device context prediction for a long time. These individual signals, if used independently, are quite meaningless. It is very difficult to correlate a user's likeliness of clicking on an ad based on device storage. Very difficult. You can do all the machine learning and deep learning you want, but the ability for these signals to trigger a positive correlation, it is very, very challenging. to take it further, the whole reason for privacy changes to be coming into the fore right now is because to minimize the amount of data that gets sent from devices. Now, with this approach of contextual targeting, you're essentially sending a whole slew of raw data, be it IP address, be it power status, battery status, storage information to the cloud. And that is a significant platform risk as a game publisher to, to put all your ad monetization efforts into. So we don't think this is a very valuable solution, and we don't think it's a long-term solution. We won't even consider it a solution really, because it's something, and there is no idea of how is it actually going to make your inventory more addressable or not. So there has to be a better way of actually addressing your inventory and your users without compromising your privacy. As it happens with a lot of innovation, you have a problem, there's a challenge. Now we're going to talk about, we look at another industry, which is the industry of computing. And so it's not all doomsday. In a completely parallel world, there's a seismic shift happening, which is called edge computing. What's that? It's a fancy word, or, we came across this definition from Cloudflare, which I quite liked. It's edge computing is a networking philosophy focused on bringing computing as close to the source of data as possible in order to reduce latency and bandwidth use. I would extend it further to say with enhanced privacy and security. What this means is that all the device data that's there, instead of sending it off to the cloud to do some kind of magic computations, why don't we do it on the device itself, where we can preserve and protect the user's privacy while delivering the monetization results that we want. Now, if we just take a look back and how do we actually get here? So, if you go back from the 1970s and 80s, we used to use these things called mainframes. It's a large machine in the middle of a room where everyone used to plug into these. Then evolved into a client server based approach where, well, people got tired of going into the office to, interact with these large boxes. Oh no, I want to sit in the comfort of my office and still talk to the large box. So that's when clouds, distributed systems came up. Then came the world of internet, and that connected all these local networks all over the world, and it allowed us to communicate. Finally, we got tired of doing all this www stuff. We said, hey, we want this computing power in our pockets with mobile computing. That's what happened. Now, the next step is a wave, as we're seeing, is edge computing, where yes, we have all this computing power, but we want to have this private, close to us, while still getting the real-time applications that we want to experience. And that's where we see edge computing coming to ad monetization's rescue, if I might use a word. So we talked about three things. We talked about the privacy changes that are coming up. We talked about the impacts that it's going to have on ad monetization. And now, for the purposes of this, the flavor where edge computing is going to help solve this, it manifests itself as on-device targeting. And that's where we see a clear solution emerging in this next wave of advertising. It's a whole new world where it has to be private, it has to be effective, has to be smart. Innovation in this case usually happens, as I was saying earlier, you borrow an existing technology that's being used in a different field, apply it to your current problems. And that's where we see the future of ad monetization lying. So what's it look like? All the individual signals that we're talking about, the raw device signals for contextual targeting and so forth, you can think of them independently. They don't mean too much. The power really comes when you combine them intelligently to give you something to say, hey, you know what? This user is running with a probability of 89%, or they're commuting, or they're at leisure. As in, are they in the right and most opportune moment to engage with the content I'm trying to get their experience, their attention on? And this can happen in the moment on the device. Now, you can have a whole range of events like this that you can allow to advertise to reach an audience. You can also build audiences on the back of that, where you combine specific habits to say, you know what? This app is being used when they're sleeping or when they're home, so they're probably early riser, or they're running outside, so they're probably going to be fitness enthusiasts, or they are a desk jobber because they're working at the office and it's a work environment. A whole slew of idealist audiences pop up. So you have in the moment targeting that is possible, and you have audiences that can be reliable. It's based on actual behaviors, not arbitrary actions that a user takes on a Facebook post, or this is real behaviors. So let's see this in action. What does it actually mean? What I'm going to do is I'm going to share my screen. So to give you a live demo of what this actually looks like. Let me share my screen here. So you should all be seeing my phone screen. So this app that I have over here, oops. So it'll be the Any Capture app. So this has a piece of software that is using edge computing techniques that facilitates on-device targeting. Now, we were looking at all these sensors, the ones we talked about: accelerometer, gyroscope, you'll have ambient light. You can think of throwing an app category in there as well. Headphones plugged in, not plugged in. By themselves, they really don't mean too much. You cannot be sending all this raw data to the cloud and hopefully it makes some sense. It's just not feasible from an engineering point of view, from a privacy point of view, and even from a monetization point of view. The power of it comes really is when you combine them intelligently to say things like, well, you know what? You're actually stationary right now. The device is on the surface. We're indoors. We're all working from home here in London. And the overall situation is working. It's lunchtime. Stomach's almost growling, but not yet. If I pick the device up in my hand, it should say on the device position is in my hand. And I'll put it back down. It goes to on surface again. This is in the moment target. On the back of that, we have these habits that emerge as I play my game. As I play a specific game, I listen to it. It has put me, the user, Abby, in these audiences as walkers, outdoor explorers, night owls, hermits, early risers. These are based on real behaviors, not arbitrary actions of intent to say, oh, I might be interested in what I actually do. But importantly, there is no ID associated. These parameters make your inventory as a publisher more valuable, and this is your first party data. So you have in the moment targeting, this is live, and you have audiences that are also happening live, that are always being computed. So this is a real example of how you can see on-device targeting in action. We'll switch back to the presentation now. And by the way, if anyone says, oh, on-device targeting is 3 to 5 years away or something, that's not the case because you just saw it live. It's not very far in the distant future. It's here. How can this help you to make more money? Well, it can apply to both performance and brand campaigns. Performance campaigns, well, think of a performance campaign that you want to boost conversion of a specific app. So in this case, it's an Uber Eats app where it says, well, in this case, if you want to target fitness enthusiasts who have a creative for healthy foods, well, and they're on the way back home for work, that's the most opportune moment you figure out to hit them with this ad, with this creative. That's where you can boost conversion. That's for performance. For brand targeting, as a brand, you know who your consumers are. You don't need any publishers tell you who your consumers are, but you want to be able to surface, okay, if I have a game, is the definition of an audience for a game just the fact that they play a football game? No. At the end of the day, gamers are also people. They eat, they sleep, they run, they meet with friends, they do everything. So and they fall into a specific audience. So if they're a jogger, can I reach out to a jogger as a Nike to say, oh, how frequently do my users go for a run? I want to target those people. That's for brand advertising, which will increase your CPM. Now, so you see how you can increase ad revenues for both performance and brand targeting through on-device approaches. Now, so what's in it for you? As a game publisher, well, what do you get with on-devices? Threefold. You get optimal ad serving, where these targeting parameters help you serve ads smartly and in the moment. And you don't have to send a lot of raw data outside. It's smart targeting because you're relying on a level of decisioning that's very sophisticated. And importantly, in this current timeline, in this current times era, it offers you regulatory immunity because you're not compromising user privacy, and you're not having to send raw data outside as well. And this form of targeting can help with all forms of ads, interstitial, native, rewarded video, in place. So this screenshot is from some of our friends from Frameplay, and this is quite cool because you have a brand-led advertising in the game itself, and that's not intrusive, and you can see it. You can continue playing the game. And another one, I think Christian, who's going to be following up at Audio Mob, this is one for, you have audio ads that are, again, not taking away from the gameplay experience, but on-device targeting makes all the inventory more valuable because you're playing games in all sorts of environments. So, takeaways. FOMI. What the hell is that? FOMI. FOMI. F is make sure to leverage first-party data. If it's your user data, make sure to maximize its use. O, embrace on-device technologies because it will really set you on a future-proof path towards ad monetization. M, regardless of what you hear, try to minimize the amount of raw device data that's leaving devices. Just try, because that puts you into a lot of platform and feature monetization risk. And finally, I, IDs are going away. They're being phased out, not just on iOS. It's just a wave of things. We've seen this domino effect. They're going away, and it will impact publisher revenues. So what are you waiting for? I think we'll be announcing the results for the poll right now. So yeah, thank you all for listening. We can take some questions now.
All right, thanks so much for really very insightful talk. I have to say, I had no idea that technology was already so, it could detail things like putting your phone down on the screen or not. Oh, hey, I see the poll results in my screen.
Yeah. I didn't get that right the first time as well. So I was like, oh, there's 29% people who are way smarter than me. So that's great.
That is way earlier than I thought. I voted 94. I had no idea.
You said 94. So 94 was when the SAM personal computer, when it actually was sold on the market from IBM. But 92 was when it was invented, I guess, in the lab or somewhere. My initial idea was actually 72 because I think that's when the first call from Motorola was made.
Right. Yes.
It just takes me back quite a time ago.
Nice. We do have a question from the audience. So the question is, would you say this is the future for advertisements now that IDFA is the crisis and users are more and more tired of disrupting monetization tactics?
I'd say so, because especially if you think of it, the way platforms are going, right? You can just take cues from platform. When I say platforms over here, you see Amazon's, the device manufacturers, what are they saying? When Apple makes a stance on privacy, if you think of facial recognition, video recognition, keyboard biometrics, they're moving everything on device. And machine learning, initially when the hype happened with the Go game, the idea was, oh, let's get all this data in the cloud and we can figure out some deep learning approaches. But now everything is moving to devices. So if that push is coming from platforms, why as an industry shouldn't we be adopting? And even from an engineering point of view, I am a geek at the end of the day, I understand it just makes sense because you cannot be sending all this raw data to the cloud.
Yeah. Okay. Some more questions coming in, and we do have a few minutes left. Next question is from Murad Shishani. How can a simple indie developer use this technology? Are there easy implementation tools, and do you have any recommendations?
Absolutely. By the way, you can send us an email, pz@number8.ai. I think the alias is working now. Yeah, reach out to us. But just for the purpose of this conversation, you can use this in multiple ways. For ad monetization, you can use this to improve the timing of your in-app purchases. For example, if you figure out from your insights that, you know what, users or my players are engaging with an in-app purchase only when they're outside and not inside, because outside is when they want to get access, they want to play a game. You don't have this ability. It's a blind spot today. you can actually learn from these insights. And it's a very simple integration. It's an SDK, you pop it in and you can get started very simply. Yeah, it's quite right out of the box, really. Yeah.
Right. Someone is also wondering if you can share your email address in the chat so people can follow up with you. And then there's another question from Sai Praneeth Gunapuni. Sai. I'm sorry, I'm struggling with the last name. The question is, can publishers use this tech right now? And are there any ad networks which support this tech?
Very good question. Publishers can use this for the in-app purchases today. They can, for any kind of in-app purchases, optimization, etc. today. From an ad network point of view, we're currently trialing with quite a few ad networks. So stay tuned. If you want to reach out to us, tell us which specific ad networks you are currently using in your games. Reach out to us and we'll see how that fits into our timeline from an integration point of view. But yeah, we're seeing really good results from both, because the brand piece is just so obvious. We are also operating in the audio advertising landscape. Exact same problem there. I mean, we can draw parallels because again, it's users, inventory is going to become less addressable, i.e. less valuable. So how can we help monetize it without compromising privacy? So it's, yeah.
Yeah, clear answer, I think. All right, I think that's all for now. We need to move on to our next speaker. Thank you so much for these insights, and I'd say stay tuned because the next speaker is going to talk about audio ads.
Perfect. Yeah. All right. Cheers. Bye.
Thanks. Bye.